Introduction into the Periodic Table, starring Sévon Colbert. The vertical columns of the periodic table are called groups, or families. Notice that they are numbered from 1 to 18 from left to right. Each group contains elements with similar chemical properties. The horizontal rows of elements in the periodic table are called periods. Physical and chemical properties change somewhat regularly across a period. Elements that are close to each other in the same period tend to be more similar than elements that are further apart. Weird, isn't it? We're about to break this down even further. So, don't lose your head. We can classify elements into 4 different groups, with the exception of hydrogen. These 4 groups are metals, metalloids, and nonmetals. The reason I said 4 groups, even though there are 3 groups, is that, like I said, hydrogen is something special on its own. So, breaking down into the 3 groups. The biggest group, starting on group 1 all the way to a few elements of group 16, and even the elements on the downside of the periodic table. We have the metals. As their name suggests, they are metal. You can recognize metals by their shininess or metallic luster. Perhaps the most important characteristic property of metals is the ease with which they conduct electricity and transfer energy. Thus, a metal is an element that is a good electrical conductor and a good heat conductor. At room temperature, most metals are solid. Most metals also have the property of malleability. That is, they can be hammered or rolled into thin sheets. Now, we will go to the nonmetals, starting with carbon, helium, and spreading down to numbers 117 and 118. The nonmetals are nonmetals. These include gases like nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and chlorine. One nonmetal, bromine, is a liquid, though. The solid nonmetals include carbon, phosphorus, selenium, sulfur, and iodine. These metals tend to be brittle rather than malleable and ductile. Low conductivity can be used to define nonmetals. A nonmetal is an element that is a poor conductor of heat and electricity. But there is another group. In between the nonmetals and metals lies the metalloids. And on a lot of periodic table, these can be easily seen with the black stairs. That will depict you have hit the metalloid section. Metalloids are, well, they're elements with properties and characteristics of metals and nonmetals, like a hybrid. All metalloids are solid at room temperature. They tend to be less malleable than metals, but not as brittle as nonmetals. Some metalloids, such as antimony, have a somewhat metallic luster. Metalloids tend to be semiconductors of electricity. That is, their ability to conduct electricity is intermediate between that of metals and nonmetals. Metalloids are used in the solid state circuitry found in desktop computers, digital watches, televisions, and radios. There is one more group, although, counting hydrogen or not, there may be 5 different groups. There is one more group which we are missing. Group 18, another classification of its own. These elements are called the noble gases. They are generally unreactive. In fact, it was not until 1962 that the first noble gas compound, xenon hexafluor, well, you get what I'm trying to say, was prepared. Low reactivity makes the noble gases very different from other families of elements. Group 18 elements, the noble gases, are gases at room temperature. Neon, argon, and krypton and xenon are all used in lighting. Helium is used in party balloons and weather balloons because it is less dense than air. These are the different groups and classifications of the periodic table. Thus, ending our introduction. These are the types of elements, and I hope you found this very, very useful in your future studies, preparing yourselves for chemistry. This is Sévon Colbert once again, signing off.